Welcome to part three and my final part in which I interview Mathew Hulbert. And today I am in location as I'm joined with the Mathew Hulbert. Love it, guys, love it. In this series, I discuss Mathew Hulbert about his political journey. I discuss Mathew Hulbert about the tragedy and the heartache that he experienced with his mum. And also, we're going to be touching on his current projects and other new developments. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and let's get into it. Right, let's talk about. So you mentioned your journalistic career, and I think journalism and politics often go hand in hand. So let's talk about your political journey and political evolution, because a lot of people make the assumption that you've been this diehard. You mentioned the Liberal Club. You know, I don't know if you had liberal thinking back then, but you've never been a Liberal Party, SDP, or LibDem member all your political life. You know, you were actually initially a Labour member under the times of Tony Blair. So let's unpack that. Explain to the audience that political journey and how you got from being a Blairite lovey to where you are today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting, Andy. So, I'd say I've always been a small L liberal in kind of my my outlook. I always knew from the age of 14 that I was not a Tory. Let's put it that way, and that's not an automatic thing necessarily for working class people. Quite often they think that. I mean, I wouldn't agree, but quite often, the reason that a lot of working class people voted for Margaret Thatcher was because she did understand. Yeah, well, indeed, she did understand their aspiration to do better for themselves and their families. I would argue, as I do in the Margaret Thatcher debate, and folks do go and find that on Andy's channel, that the trouble was that whilst recognising the aspiration of some, she also destroyed communities of others, and so that was the for and the against of Margaret Thatcher's time in politics. So I knew that I wasn't a Tory, right? I wish that I'd joined the Lib Dems kind of straight off. I was a big fan of Paddy Ashdown, and thankfully got to meet him in later years. And I really wish I'd joined the Lib Dems straight off, but I didn't. I was kind of, the rather enthralled by the Blair smile, and here was this dynamic leader of this dynamic leader of the opposition who was youthful and dynamic and progressive and was totally unlike the rather grey and greying kind of John Major of the time, who kind of was seen as. I mean, I now look back on his time and think that he was one of the better prime ministers of my lifetime. But I didn't like the Major government at all, and all the sleaze and all of the. I think I can say this. As long as I don't mention individuals, but yeah, all the brown envelopes and all of that. And really, allegedly, I think even John Major would probably agree now that his government by the end was tired and was out of time and out of people's goodwill, actually. So I knew I wasn't a Tory. I joined Labour in '98 as soon as I was able to, so when I was 18, and stayed in Labour until 2003 when I left over the Iraq War. And again, I really wish I'd joined the Lib Dems then under the great Charles Kennedy, the greatest ever leader of our party. But I have to say I didn't. I agreed with Charles Kennedy at the time in his anti-Iraq stance.
My political hero.
Indeed, and mine too. And I thankfully got to meet him as well in later years.
Get around.
Which I was very fortunate to do. For years, I wasn't in any party. And then, because I was a big fan of, and I still am today, I think she's fantastic, a big fan of Caroline Lucas, I joined the Greens. Now, there was a number of things that kind of wrong with the following years, in that all the people in the Greens seemed like lovely people, so it's nothing against the people. They all seem very nice. But I had to travel all the way into Leicester for the local party meeting because there was no local party infrastructure here in Hinckley and Bosworth. And I'm going to put this in the nicest way possible, Andy, because I don't want Greens to be annoyed with me.
Well, you've got a Green coming up on your show, so
well, indeed I have. Daniel Laycock is going to be fantastic, but I just thought that some of their policies were a bit loopy. I just thought that I thought that they were very well-meaning, very well-intentioned, very idealistic people. But as I often say to my good friend Paddy, it's not just about being ideal, and he very much agrees with me. It's not just about being idealistic; it's also being realistic. I like to think that I'm idealistic, but it has to be tinged with realism about what can practically be done and what's the best way of getting things done. So I didn't sit easily with the Greens, and then thankfully in Hinckley and Bosworth there's a thriving Liberal Democrat local party, and I got to know some of the characters. My good friend Michael Mullaney, who is my local ward, borough and county councillor.
Good man.
A very good man, very good person, Michael. Really hope he becomes our MP next time. And then I met other people like the legendary David Bill, who has just stood down from the Borough Council after 50 plus years. He was on the Borough Council before it even was a Borough Council. So an absolutely legendary figure here in Hinckley Bosworth, who I see at church every week. He goes to St Mary's here in Hinckley too. And basically I was encouraged by him and Stuart Bray, the leader of the council then as now, to join the LibDem. So it was really funny because they made quite a big. So I was nominally the press officer of Leicester Green Party, right? And so I don't know if you remember that there used to be an actual LibDem newspaper, Andy, which members used to get. And in the LibDem newspaper, there was this big kind of feature. Leicester Green Party press officer joins Lib Dems, and there was me shaking hands with Michael. So they made a lot. I know they made a lot out of the fact that I was crossing the floor. So I joined the Lib Dems. I joined in March 2010. The coalition then happened in May or June 2010. So you can imagine what I thought about. That.
Yes.
By the end of 2010, I was a candidate for the Borough Council. And then, as I said earlier on, I got elected in Barwell in May 2011, and then had the 4 years on both the Borough Council and Barwell Parish Council until 2015. I lost both seats in 2015 for the reasons that I gave earlier on. Then had 4 years away from elected politics at least. I'm never away from politics itself, but away from elected politics. And then I gained my parish seat back in 2019. And held that until 2023, when I decided to stand down from politics, from elected politics fully after the death of my mum, which I know we'll come on to. So,
yeah.
So I was involved in elected politics for a total of 8 years, 4 years with the borough and parish seat, then 4 years off, and then 4 years as just a parish councillor. And I get annoyed when some people belittle parish and town councils because, and I know that they're not always the most best behaved things. I get that, but I was so proud with what I was able. I mean, I was proud of my work on the Borough Council, but I was perhaps especially proud of my work on the parish council because I was able to set up and I think this still happens each Christmas. So I think this is part of my legacy that I'm really proud of. That just before Christmas each year, during my time, and I think still now, we set up a thing where we put a load of kind of Christmas for people that got nominated who might be having a bit of a tough time, might be having a bit of a rough time financially, and for whom Christmas is very much an extra expense that they can't necessarily afford. That they get sent to their house a bag with a whole load of Christmas items in. So some presents for children if they've got children, some food items, etc., etc., etc. And I think I must check, but I think that still happens now. So I think that's part of my legacy that I'm really, really proud of. And then also, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that's great that you had a success, like a policy that stuck and had a lasting impact in those communities. Like I know, like you then, I know you lost and then got re-elected, and then you retired from local party politics. Although you're still in, as we all are, we're still, in LibDem politics. But it's good, positive impact in the community has managed to stick, and I think really we don't you don't do yourself justice, because I think you are quite a modest person. I'm sure, you have your critics, as you do. Like you said yourself, you're quite forthright, you're quite blunt, but I think actually it really shows that community really shapes your politics. I was gonna we are gonna touch on your more recent story about your mum, and if people don't know that Mathew lost his mum due to failures of funding with the NHS and the ambulances. But very briefly, because if I'm going to be a little bit critical, Mathew, I always think you are. There are times where I hear your personal politics and some policies. I would have you down as a Green today. And it's interesting that you were once a Green member, and hearing you talk, say some of their policies are quite loopy. Now, maybe, that's a product of time. Maybe they did have very, very loopy policies. But like policies they're advocating, like today, like a wealth tax, which you're a big advocate for. So more generally, because you've gone from Blair, Labour under Blair's leadership to then you've had a flirt with the Greens, and now you're comfortably in the Lib Dems, which for me it's people in the Lib Dems, because I think we are generally community focused and broad church, but I think I can't have asked for a nicer party, but more generally I think I was once in Labour and I didn't like the internal politics usually. So as your own personal politics moved, you said small L Liberal. Now you would say today, which you often do, you're now a big L Liberal. And, and often they say when you get older, you get more right wing. Would you say you've had a more left wing traction as you got older? And also, just very briefly, like political influences in your life. It could be personal, could be like your family, or even people like Charles Kennedy for me, that really helped and shaped and influenced your politics.
Yeah. So, and just whilst it's in my mind, I also just wanted to point out. This goes totally against what you've just said, because you've just said, oh, he's ever so humble, and now I'm going to say, here's two other things that I'm really proud of, but I just want to get them on the record. Also for the parish council, I got us to celebrate Pride Month, which for me personally was really really important. And then also when I was on the borough council, my backbench role was as children and young people's champion, a role that I really enjoyed, and that's what got me campaigning, which I did for many years on the need to refund the youth service, which was sadly devastated by the coalition government and by government since. And I'm pleased to hear actually that this Labour government intends to refund the youth service, which is, if they do that, they'll have my wholehearted backing. So in terms of political influences, I think so there's locally and nationally. So nationally, obviously Tony Blair was a big influence on it, and certainly the Tony Blair of the first term, I very much agreed with. That was putting money in public services that were desperately in need of it. That was hiring more doctors and nurses. That was starting to get the education system sorted out. The Tony Blair of later terms, when it became all about Iraq and using the private sector more and all of that, I wasn't a fan of that. And you ask, has my politics moved? Yeah, I mean, I think it is absolutely moved leftwards. I think there's no doubt about that at all. And if anything, I've become even more liberal. I mean, my view of the world generally is that you do you, as long as you doing you doesn't stop someone else being them. That really is my politics, and that is one of the reasons, Andy, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why I stand up so vigorously and so forcefully in regards to trans rights, because
Yes.
we've not talked about it, but I chaired so after both my my journalism and my politics, I in my spare time chaired the board of trustees at the LGBT Centre in Leicester, which works in Leicester and in Leicestershire and Rutland. And we worked a lot with trans folks, and actually meeting trans people. These are people that just want to live their lives as their authentic self. So as me and you both, live our lives as our authentic gay selves, they just want to live their lives in the gender that they know themselves to be, in their mind and in their heart. And I've never been. I've genuinely tried, Andy, sometimes to think to myself, what must these gender critical transphobic people think? What must their reasoning be? And I can't, for the life of me, understand what their reasoning is. Do I get that some people might say that there are competing rights, that there's rights of what we call cis women, so women who were born as women, and their safe spaces. Might some people think that clashes with the rights of? I don't agree with this, but might some people think that clashes with the rights of trans women? Yet they might think that, but then my argument against that would be that it's not trans women that are a threat to women; it's some men that are a threat to women, and they're a threat to all women, including trans women. And again, it gets me pilloried on Talk and other outlets when I'm so forthright in my support of trans women. But I'll tell you another of the reasons why is because if you look back to Stonewall and the beginnings of the gay rights movement, who were at the front of that, sticking up for our rights? It was trans women, and it was not just trans women; it was black trans women who were there standing up for the rights of gay people. And I really feel this very strongly in my heart, that it is not for, especially for gay men who, and I'm not saying that gay men aren't still persecuted in many ways, because we sometimes are, and that should never happen, and there's still gay bashing and all of that. So I'm not saying that everything is perfect for gay men, but I also think I'm fair enough to say, Andy, that gay men are probably at the top of the pile in terms of rights now, in terms of LGBT plus. And I think it's not for us who've won all of these rights to now pull up the ladder and turn our back on trans people when they're going through such a torrid time as they are at the moment. I mean, some of the trans people that we work with at the centre would face hostility every day of their lives as they just try to go about their days. Having to come to the realisation that, oh my God, I'm in the wrong body. I mean, imagine having to come to that realisation, then having to think, oh my goodness, and society as a whole, not of course everyone, thank goodness, but society in its widest sense, and the media and all of this, are going to persecute me every day of my life. I mean, it's beyond appalling, and so it's one of the reasons why I stand up for them as vigorously as I do, and I will continue to do so. And as you know, Andy, a phrase I often use is that I've got broad shoulders. I'm happy to go onto these outlets, and I'm very grateful that they have me on. So I don't want if anyone from Talk is watching, I'm very grateful that they have me on. I'm very grateful that I get given a voice. But I just want to say, Andy, that I'm prepared to take on people who have a very much different view in terms of the rights of trans people, and with my booming voice and my broad shoulders, to stick to my guns on that issue.
Oh, okay. And I think that was beautifully done, to be fair, Mathew, because I do really feel for trans people today. It's much like my friend Pat, who you've heard about. She said, out like in the Christian community, the LGBT community are the last bastions of the suffering of Christianity. Women. If you read the Bible, it's not great for women, but now women, it's and I think sadly, it's for trans on social policy. Let's say, you mentioned Talk TV. Now, you appeared on Talk TV first. Was it? I believe it was Jeremy Kyle in very tragic and sad circumstances, and
Right.
I obviously I said to Mathew, my intention is to bring emotions. I don't want to see Mathew cry. So, but I know it'll be a difficult one to revisit. Have to revisit. But can you explain to the audience how the circumstances in which you ended up on Talk TV with Jeremy Kyle, and explain and basically the beginnings of your current activism?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so and apologies for those who've heard me talk about this so many times. But I think it's important that I do so. And of course, you have to remember that I'm often talking to lots of different audiences who may or may not be aware of Mum's story. But yeah, so on Sunday, July 10th, 2022, I got a call here in my flat in Hinckley that Mum had fallen at home in her home in what was our family home in Barwell. She'd fallen before, so she had one of these council things that you can press if you then fall. She'd pressed that. The control room then got in touch with me. It was in the early hours of the morning, so I then contacted my friend Stuart, leader of the Borough Council here, who, bless him, came and got me, and we went over to Mum's. She'd fallen getting out of bed to go to the toilet. She said she'd hurt her ribs, so obviously we didn't try and move her, and when we called for an ambulance, the advice was not to move her, so we didn't. We called at 5:01 a.m. and a paramedic finally arrived at Mum's house. First of all, in a car at 4 p.m. So that's 11 hours later. Checked Mum over. Further called for an ambulance, which arrived shortly after that. Mum was taken to hospital, where she died 2 days later after an infection turned to sepsis. Yeah.
So sorry, Mathew.
It's okay. It was what it was, and yeah, I just it's amazing, Andy, because I've talked about this so many times. I've done upwards of 100 or more interviews about what happened to Mum, and I've only ever literally just once before, kind of got visibly upset during an interview. But I think it's because I'm on here with you, and that you're a good friend, and that I know that I'm in safe surroundings. But yeah, so I mean, to lose, as you of course know all too well yourself, Andy, to lose your mum, to lose a parent, a dear family member, to lose someone that you love is sad in of itself. But when you lose them after such a intolerable, inexcusable failure by the National Health Service, I don't think you ever get over the death of a parent anyway, but I don't think I'll ever get over how it happened. And I was with my mum for all of those 11 hours. And all she kept saying was, Mathew, when is help going to come? And every few hours I'd call 999 again, which I know you're not really meant to, but it was the only thing I was able to do, to say she's still in this position. And yet I accept that she's breathing. And so, of course, you must go out to people first that aren't. But she's a 78-year-old woman. She's frail. She's in pain. She's distressed. She's in a very undignified position, because you've got to understand that, she'd been getting out of bed to go to the toilet. So I don't need to say anything more about that. And I just thought that my dear mum deserved better. She deserved better than to be left on her bedroom floor for 11 hours. Now, when the paramedics arrived, they first of all, the one paramedic, the woman, and then the two gents that came in the ambulance. I've got no criticism of them. They couldn't have been any kinder or more caring or more considerate towards my mum, and they were devastated by the fact that they haven't been able to come for 11 hours. But my mum deserved better than that. So she was taken to hospital on the Sunday, and then on the Monday morning, I got a call here in my flat, and it was one of those weird calls, where the doctor, first of all, was kind of, it sounded like a fairly normal conversation. He was saying, "So what happened yesterday? Can you tell me what happened?" So I was telling him, and then he said, "And are you able to get here today?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not entirely sure that I am actually today. I've got work. I'll have to." He said, "No, you need to get here today." And that was when I realized, when you get a call like that and the tone suddenly changes, and you think, he didn't need to say the words. I knew what that meant. So I then got on the phone to. All I can tell you, Andy, is that kind of, it's weird. It's kind of involuntary, but a kind of involuntary noise came out of me that I kind of never heard before or since. Just like a painful kind of. I don't even know what it was. I then phoned my sister, and bless her, it was her. I hadn't realised this, but it was her birthday. So her birthday, I'm afraid, is always now between the day that Mum fell and the day that Mum died. And I called her, and she picked up the phone, and I was like, "Deb, they've said she's going to die. They've said she's going to die like this." So she then flew over on the Tuesday morning, and me, my brother, and my sister were all with Mum, and she died on the Tuesday evening. So.
So sorry, Mathew.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you other than that, this was the person that I loved most in the world. And so you're never the same person after something like that happens. And yeah, so I'd already given the eulogy when my dear dad died in 2016 under much more kind of normal circumstances, if I can put it like that. And then I gave the eulogy at my mum's funeral. So I've now kind of buried both of my parents. And yeah, it's weird. It's weird, Andy, because I just sometimes feel very alone, and I know that I'm not. I know that I've got a beloved sister, beloved nephews and nieces, beloved friends, including yourself. But when the person you love most in the world dies, you can feel alone even in a crowded room. And then I threw myself into campaigning, and maybe I shouldn't have done. Maybe I should have given myself more time to kind of heal. But I threw myself into campaigning. I got involved with Just Treatment. That was. I do find it really ironic, Andy, that one of the reasons that I now get to do what I've always wanted to do, which is political and social commentary on national TV and radio, probably wouldn't have happened if what happened to my mum hadn't have happened. And so, in a way, that leads to its own kind of guilt, because you think to yourself, especially all these years, especially 3 years on now, that I obviously enjoy doing this commentary, and of course I do, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But the only reason that I got noticed was because this dreadful thing happened to Mum. So,
but I would say, Mathew, as a friend, I'm gonna take my interview hat off. As a friend, you are trying to put right the world and not see examples of your mum's suffering. And I think, we mentioned influences, and obviously your mum influenced indirectly your views, your politics. And I just want to say she would be so proud of you that you are trying to put right the world in her honour and name. So I don't think you should feel guilty, Mathew. I won't have that. As I'm Judge Judy. I will not have that. So,
well, thank you, and yeah, all I can say is that all the campaigning that I've done these past 3 years, and my campaigning has taken me to Downing Street twice. It's taken me to the party headquarters. I met the then. I should point out he's not wanted to meet me since he's actually become health secretary, which is frustrating. But when he was shadow health secretary, it took me to meeting with Wes Streeting. It took me to meeting with the wonderful Daisy Cooper when she was the LibDem Health spokesperson. It's seen me give countless interviews to the national, regional, and local broadcast media, to national newspapers, etc., etc., etc. And for a long time, Andy, I thought that I could talk about what happened to Mum and it not affect me emotionally. But what I've come to realise is that it does affect me emotionally. And even though most of the time I don't actually get emotional during the actual interview, I always know that later that day I'll need to have a good old cry, because it does affect me. I mean, this was the person I love most in the world, and she died 2 days after waiting 11 hours for an ambulance.
Much like how we mentioned we should be saying love platonically, I think it's okay to cry, and especially with male mental health, I think there's no shame showing emotion and crying, and so no, don't have to apologise, Matthew, and I can completely understand that. I'm going to bookend this now, so I'm going to do a bit of, I thought it up in my head, so let's just sort of like, to help lift the conversation back up, so I'm going to bookend it now. I'm going to name two things, and you've got to decide which one you'd go for. So it could be like, I don't know, like milk chocolate, dark chocolate, but something like that. So which one you would either, I'm going to name some political names. So which one you would prefer in those examples, which one you prefer to have to be in the same room as you or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It's very, very off the cuff. So it might be a bit rough around the edges. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
The BBC or Channel 4?
Channel 4.
Nigel Farage or Elon Musk? Got you there.
Farage.
Oh, okay. That was a very long pause.
Because I could get us to talk about the Online Safety Act where we agree, or I could get us to talk about proportional representation where in theory we agree, although he's gone very silent on that as of late. Whereas I think Farage is a malign, is a bad, I'll use the word bad, is a bad influence on our politics. But I just think that Elon Musk has just lost the plot, if I can put it that way.
Yes, he's a bit loopy. I can agree on that. Good point. Paddy Ashdown or Charles Kennedy?
Oh my goodness, that is really well. Of course, I met them both and respect them both greatly. But Charles Kennedy, of course, is the best leader our party ever had.
A good choice. I think I would agree with that. Samsung or Apple iPhone?
Well, it's interesting. I've got the phone that I'm using now to record this is Samsung, but I have got an iPad. So, probably Samsung.
Okay. So you're like me. You have a bit of both. Now I'm struggling to think of. Okay. John Major or Gordon Brown?
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? I think they're both very good ex-prime ministers. Let's put it that way. It still has to be Brown, because as much as I think Major was one of the better Tory prime ministers, he was still a Tory.
Okay, so Gordon Brown then.
Yeah.
And to settle this debate, scones. So is it cream and jam? Yeah, is it cream and jam? Or jam and cream?
Cream and jam.
Okay. Is that to do with the is it famous for like the whole debate on it?
No, Leicester is famous for pork pies.
Pork pies.
Melton Mowbray pork pie.
Oh, well, there we go. A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm learning every
and
day.
Do you know? And this is a funny thing about Mum, and I know that other kind of Leicestershire families do this. And I wanted to ask Mum, why do we do this on Christmas Day? And she said, I don't know, but it's just a local tradition. I was like, okay. And I still do this now, partly to remember my mum, is that on Christmas morning, we couldn't do anything else until we'd had a piece of pork pie.
Well, there we go.
I mean, why?
There we go. I mean, well, why did we bring the tree inside?
Well, quite.
Yeah. Thank you, Mathew. Thank you for this wonderful interview. You've been a fantastic first guest, and I hope I did justice there. And I said I didn't intend to make you cry, but I'm like I said, I think it's healthy that men, in particularly with mental health issues, with male mental health, that we do show emotions. And I'm happy. I'm glad. I hope I have done justice. That we saw a different side to Mathew. That is not the norm when you go on radio or television and you're column writing. And I could have spent hours and hours sort of talking more about the life at times of Mathew. So thank you so much, Mathew. Before we sign off, is there anything you'd like to add in this closing remarks?
Well, no, I mean, I just want to thank you, Andy, and you're quite right at the beginning when you said it's really weird, isn't it, that, people come into our lives. I mean, you got, I think it was only, last year or a year and a bit ago that...
Yeah, it was about a year and a half we've known each other.
Year and a half, that you, suddenly a name that I didn't recognise popped up on my Twitter, as I still call it. And that, we then kind of met face to face in person at this past summer's Birmingham Pride, and that we've just become very, very good and dear friends. And I always call, I know, absolutely. I always call my mate Paddy, who you now also know well, which is great. I love introducing my friends to my friends.
He's great.
But I always call he's Ace Paddy. I always call him my little bro, and I think I'm going to call you my bro as well. And it's not to knock my actual bro, who I love dearly despite his many issues. But I think you two are both like brothers to me, and I think you're quite right, Andy. That I mean, I've had I lost a dear male friend who took his own life. I lost a cousin, albeit one that I didn't particularly know because he lived in America. But I lost a cousin who took his own life, and it always amazes me, Andy, that the rate of male suicides is not considered a national emergency. It's not on our news bulletins like every day. Because I think I'm right in saying that it's something like 80 plus deaths a week of men under kind of the age of 50 who are taking their lives. This is shocking, and I think it's because there is that men are expected to be the strong one, men are expected to be the provider, men are expected to never show emotion, men are expected to never talk about what they're going through. Men are expected to be stoic, and I've come to hate that word. Men are expected to be all of these things, and then when they find that they can't be that because it's impossible to be all of that, they then also think that, well, I'm not all of that, so I must be a failure, and the world will be better off without me. So all I can say, if you're a guy who happens to be watching this and you feel like that, you're not a failure for seeking help. Talk to someone that you trust. Talk to a genuine dear friend, or seek professional help. There's no shame in that at all. And although I've never been in danger of doing anything like that, I've certainly been helped by the fact that I've always had friends to talk to. And so, I think I said to you in a voice note yesterday. We love our voice notes, me and Andy and Luke. I think I said to you. Yeah, absolutely. I think I said to you in a voice note yesterday that I feel profoundly blessed, and blessed is the right word actually, to have to have friends like you, to have a friend like Paddy, to have a friend like my friend John, who you'll meet at Hinkley Pride on Saturday. Just like, and Mum always said, I think I raised this earlier, but Mum always said that I kind of, chose good friends, and she'd have loved you like another son, Andy. She really would.
Oh, thank you, Mathew. And I would have adored your mum, and like I said, I think our mums would have got on fantastically. Thank you for those very for beautiful, informative remarks regarding male mental health, but also uplifting remarks about friendship and hope, I guess. So, thank you very much. This is Edit Andy here, and you might be a little bit confused, thinking, well, hang on a minute. Andy was speaking to Mathew Hulbert from the comfort of his own home, in which I was also filming in my own home. Now, the reason being is that we didn't actually get a chance to touch on Mathew's more recent developments, and also him being a co-host of Political Frenemies. And because I just so happened to be at Hinkley Pride, I thought this might be a nice little added bonus. I thought I would do justice and basically explore that. So, Mathew, first of all, thank you for doing this. And this is new ground for me. So, as people may or may not know, you are a co-host of Political Frenemies, in which you, I should say, Dr. Lord Chris Newton.
Oh, gosh, give me a break. Honestly.
It's a little bit of in-joke, guys.
Contentious.
But you are close to Christ-like, though.
Oh, that's not true either. Neither of those is. Well, the only thing that is true is that, as much as it sticks in my craw, Chris Newton is a doctor. He worked for his PhD, so he is indeed Dr. Newton. But all the other things he insists I call him, they're not true.
And who knows, he might become a lord one day.
Oh, he might well.
But would you
Lord Newton. Oh, my gosh.
Would you sit in the Lords?
Can you imagine? I knew you were going to ask me that. So, my answer to that, and the only short one I say this, is that it sounds hugely hypocritical, but there we are, we're all a contradiction, aren't we? Well, first of all, can I say, Andy, welcome to my flat. Welcome to Hinkley. It's so nice.
He's a great house host, by the way.
Oh, bless him, and it's been great to have you along. And as we're recording this, we were at Hinkley Pride yesterday, which was fantastic, and then we were at church and out and about in town today. So it's just been really, really good. And we thought we'd take this opportunity to actually do an interview in the same room. There you go. Yeah. So fantastic. So would I sit in the Lord? Look, I mean, what an amazing opportunity that would be. I mean, of course, the difficulty is that I don't believe in a totally unelected house. I believe in a fully elected house. And so, of course, if you hold that view, if you were then to actually go and sit in the Lord's, people will always say, "Oh, look at you! You're again. You want an elected Lord, but you've soon taken up the office." But what an opportunity! I mean, what an opportunity to. I mean, it'll never happen, to be honest. Sure. But what an opportunity it'd be to actually be able to be a parliamentarian and to vote on laws and to be able to speak on behalf of the issues that matter most to you. And without name dropping, I've got several friends that are LibDem peers and that do a really
many people.
I know, and that do a fantastic things. They're not. You hear about some lords and perhaps some other parties or independents who, and I hope it's a small minority who sign in each day, get their £300 or whatever it is, and then kind of allegedly don't do very much. Most LibDem peers, if not all of them, do a full day's work, and certainly the ones that I know, and they do speeches, and they're on Lords committees, and they do the whole shebang, And if I was ever in the Lords, I mean, as I say, I'm sure it'll never happen, but if I ever was, I'd want to do full days of work and really use it as an opportunity, a national platform, I don't think it'll ever happen. So, I mean, look, if people want to say you're a hypocrite because you believe in the fully elected Lords, but you'd be prepared to sit in an unelected chamber, they can say what they want. But I just think if that opportunity ever was to come my way, I'd grab it with both hands.
I'm sort of reminded of Jeremy Paxman and Michael Howard interview, but we'll move on.
Don't ask it me 10 times, please. I've given you an answer. There we are.
I would never dare. So you're co-host with Political Frenemies with Chris Newton. And it's not an original concept because it's basically. I think it's a bit more lively than because right now. People. You got the rest is politics with Alistair Campbell and Maurice Stewart, and you've also got lesser known but political currency with.
Don't tell them it's lesser known.
well, you know, we're all
Ed Balls and George Osborne.
You know, well, I am a Christian, so they're all equal in my eyes.
Both of those are very kind of. I mean, I love them both, and I listen to them both each week, so they're fantastic. But they all agree with each other a lot, don't they? It's all very centrist dad, isn't it?
Yes, you basically leaned into my point. So, you know, I think that's what makes yours much more colourful and exciting. But how did that come about?
Yeah, so me and Chris, a bit like me and yourself, actually, Andy. So we just got chatting on, I still call it Twitter, I don't know how to call it X, Elon Musk. So we both got chatting on Twitter, and basically, I mean, unlike me and you, whereas me and you tend to agree much more than we disagree, me and Chris, because Chris is kind of high Tory, you know, and quite right-wing, bless his heart.
He's been rehabilitated.
Oh, no, I wish he had. But he's quite right-wing, bless him, and so me and him would just disagree, but hopefully in a pretty friendly way, you know. And Chris does stuff, I did stuff on Talk, Chris does stuff on GB News, and so we just got talking a bit about our experiences of doing commentary on these TV channels, and the ups and the downs of doing that, you know. And then we just started meeting up in London when I was down there. Normally, if I'm down there doing Talk, we'll meet up after. And we just decided one day that the conversations that we were having off air, you know, we'd put on air, we'd record, and no, we didn't know if there'd be an audience or whatever for it, you know, but we thought, well, we're having these conversations anyway about politics and disagree in a friendly way. Why don't we start this podcast and call it Political Frenemies? And for those that
Which is very clever.
Well, thank you. I came up with the title. But don't let Dr. Lord, whatever you call him, Chris Newton, so he'll love that. Say any different. But yeah, the whole premise is, and you say it's not original at all, but the whole premise is that two people who disagree can debate politics robustly, very robustly often. Sometimes we really disagree, as you know, Andy, but still remain friendly at the end. And we absolutely do that. And despite the fact that me and Chris disagree on pretty much everything, we do remain friends, and I think that's what politics should be. The trouble with politics today, and we can all be guilty of this, I don't claim to be a saint, is that it can sometimes be too personal, and you play the man and not the ball. And what me and Chris try and do, and you know, I'm not saying there's been moments where I really have disagreed with him, and I've had to kind of, you know, I've had to kind of say, look, I really do disagree on this. But then you just have to really agree to disagree, you know, and have the debate. But then remember that the issues are the issues, but as two people, we still get on very, very well. And that's the point of our show. And the guests that we've had on as well, we've had to make clear to them that, and we've been very blessed to have Iain Dale on from LBC. We've had Peter Cardwell on from Talk TV. We've had Matthew Goodwin and Freeman, excellent Tory councillor. And yes, you did just hear me say excellent Tory councillor. That's not commenting on his politics. That's commenting on the fact that, you know, he clearly knows his stuff campaigning, and is a very colourful and interesting guy. We'll have him on again in the next season. We're looking forward to that. And then we've had Chris Carter on, who's our Labour guy. He's fantastic. He's just announced that he's standing for the Senate for Labour, the Welsh Senate next year. So, of course, I hope that I can only ever advocate for a LibDem vote because I'm a party member, but it would be interesting to see whether Chris gets elected for Labour. And from next series, we're going to have Daniel Laycock as our Green representative, occasional person on the panel. But obviously, we recognise that several parties are missing from that, and that they need to occasionally have their voice heard. So that's why we have these occasional people from the other parties. And we are looking for someone from Reform. Now, look, I can't pretend that is easy, because obviously if I disagree with Chris, oh my goodness, I'm really going to disagree with someone from Reform UK. But no one can deny, you know, it pains me, but no one can deny, Andy, that they are a big party now. They are serious players in the game. I wish they weren't, but they are. And so we're looking for someone from Reform who isn't just going to be... The other thing about Political Frenemies is that each of us, even Chris, is prepared to have a go at our own party if we think they're not living up to what we want them to live up to. And Chris has been very critical of Kevin Badenoch and all the rest of it. So fine. And I'm critical of Ed Davey, where I feel it's warranted, and the Lib Dems. And you know, and
healthy debate.
And Chris Carter, although it'll be interesting to see now with Chris. Now he's an official candidate standing for the Senate, quite how critical he's able to be, but we'll see about But the whole point of people coming on our show is that our podcast is that they've got to be prepared to be independent of the political party, you know. And so we want to find a Reform UK person that, they'll have their views and they'll have their reformy views, and okay, that's fine. But we'll be prepared to say, but actually on this, and this, we could be doing better, or we're not correct. Or if they're just going to come on and be a parrot of the party line,
it's just not going to work.
No, it's no point. Yeah. So we'll see if we find someone like that. Look, if you're watching, I don't know why you'd be a Reform person watching The Yellow Rebel, but maybe you are. If you are and you can talk well and you can hold people's attention and you're prepared to be a bit critical of Nigel Farage and your party, get in touch.
And also, for diversity, I look forward to when you might potentially have a first female guest.
Well, can I just say, so on that, I meant to, I always have that much in my brain now. Sometimes I forget to say what I want to say. I'm really, really glad you reminded me of that, Andy. Yeah, look, me and Chris have both said this to each other, and we're very critical of ourselves as well, is that thus far there has only been men on the podcast.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, Chris doesn't believe in, diversity and all that necessarily, and but I do. And so I especially feel that we clearly need to rectify that in the next series. To have had a whole... And obviously, it was our first series and we were launching and all the rest of that, so that's fine. But for us to have a whole series where there was only ever men on,
and white men.
And white men isn't not white middle class men though, because I'm certainly working class. So we did, and
you're bucking the trend.
And I'm gay too, so okay,
Yes.
But to have only have had men on, it's not really good enough, and so. We're really hoping in this next season, and we've got a couple of fantastic women lined up. I think they tend to lean more to the right, so we need to find some left-leaning women that can come on. But we really want. We know that I certainly have said to Chris, and Chris agrees as well. But I've certainly said, in terms of having more diverse voices, even if you don't particularly believe in diversity, in terms of making the podcast more interesting, we need to have more women on. So look out in the next series.
So watch this space, guys, on Political Frenemies. And also on my own channel, I will actually be having a female Liberal Democrat on my channel. No spoilers on what that's going to be, but she'll be on live debate streams with Luke. And
yes, so I guess you've only had men thus far, haven't you?
Well, it's interesting. So she said about Thatcher, and she said, it wasn't meant to be malice or anything, but she said, she would have loved to have talked about the femininity bit of Thatcher, because we all discussed it, and it does seem a bit ironic.
But I guess we can only...
all budget-free men.
I guess we can only discuss it from the point of view of men, because we are men.
But it's a new channel, and
right.
I'm learning, and I'm hoping she'll become a sort of semi-regular guest. So there's definitely some.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting her virtually and then hopefully in person one day as well with yourself. But really looking forward to that. And I think it's good, Andy, that we're talking about this, because I think it's good that anyone with any kind of platform and anyone with any kind of audience holds themselves to account about who they have on, about what they talk about what voices are represented and all the rest of that. Because we should, it's all right coming on and pontificating about what the government aren't getting right or what other political parties aren't getting right. You have to hold yourself to those standards.
Absolutely.
And so I'm glad that we've had this chat. Yeah.
There we go. Right, so you mentioned Iain Dale, our Political Frenemies. And it turns out that you are going to be right. So Iain Dale writes a series of in his books. He writes a series of basically gets people who are writers to write for his book, and you are actually one of the writers. So
for his next book.
So could you talk a little bit about that and how that came about?
Indeed. So it's a book about by-elections, the most important by-elections that have taken place over the centuries. And I'm very fortunate to be among the 80-some-odd authors invited to write a chapter for his book, which comes out on the 18th of September. So, I was asked to do that. And so I have written about the Batley and Spen by-election of 2016, which is the by-election that came about after the horrific murder of the Labour MP Jo Cox.
Okay. Quite a heavy one.
Absolutely, very heavy indeed, and the most tragic of circumstances. And it was quite a difficult by-election to write about, in truth, Andy, because it wasn't a traditional by-election, but by the very nature of what had brought it about, Jo Cox's horrific murder, as she was about to do a constituency surgery to help the people who are battling in Spain. Because obviously most of the parties felt that it wasn't appropriate for them to stand, and I think they were quite right about that. So the Conservatives didn't stand, LibDems didn't stand, I think Greens didn't stand, and so it was Labour against a whole lot of what you might call, well, I don't know if I should be generous given who I'm talking about, but I will be generous. I'll call them at least hard right political parties, and independents.
Okay.
And so Labour were clearly going to win, but they were challenged by all of these people who spewed a whole lot of hate during that campaign, allegedly. So anyway, it was quite a difficult by-election to write about, in truth, and it took a number of edits, because I sent the first draft to Iain, and he liked it, but he said, you need to mention this, and this. So he sent that to me, so I did it again.
Oh, so he's a good editor, then.
A very good editor.
Not just give me the word.
No,
take the credit.
Absolutely not. No, a very, very good editor. But this will be my first time. So as you know, I was previously referenced in one of his other books,
yes,
because I helped research one of his other books. But this time, I'll actually have a chapter, under my name in the book. So he's credited as like the author because it's his book, but then there'll be all of these pieces written by all of these different people. And one of the other authors of one of the chapters is our mutual friend Michael Mullaney, my local councillor here, local LibDem councillor, who I know that you're going to be talking to soon for Yellow Rebel, for your channel.
Yes, in my interview series, yes.
And on the day that we're recording this, we saw Michael earlier on, and he's in very fine fettle, bless him. So I'll look forward to that interview. But he's another of the authors, and then, I must admit, it's mostly the LibDem ones that I know, but I know that our friend Lord Chris Renard has written a chapter as well. So lots of really interesting people from across the political spectrum have written chapters for this book, but it'll be my first time, as I say, apart from being mentioned, being thanked for doing some research for one of Iain's previous books. This will be my first time that my words under my name have appeared in a properly published book. So I'm really excited about it.
What's the book called? And when's it released? Do you know when it's going to be released?
Do you know, I'm having a brain drain now, what it's actually called. I think it's something like 100 by-elections, isn't it?
If the people know, he's done series like these before, so I think it's like either.
So if you put by-election book Iain Dale in your Google search, you will absolutely find it. And please do pre-order.
I did.
It's coming out on September the 18th. So really excited about that. Well, it's really nice actually, because the book comes out on the 18th. And then I'll be seeing Iain Dale in person on September 23rd, when I'm down in London appearing on Cross Question on LBC. So really excited for that. I don't think I've been on Cross Question since earlier this year, and since before I was ill. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Iain again, and I might even manage to very quickly. I might have to take a copy of his book and get a quick photo with him, with me, with the book.
You can't not do.
Oh no, you can't, can you? That opportunity.
And plus, Iain's great.
Iain is great.
I know you've also got quite a busy. So a day of recording. It's in August now. But you've had quite a busy, like we've had the summer recess, but you've actually had quite a busy time, despite the break from political frenemies. You'd think you'd have a bit more free time.
Always busy.
And part of the work you've done in the last few weeks is going to sort of, offload in September. So, but the one I'm particularly interested about is your interview with Carl Cashman.
Indeed.
So, explain to me how you went about getting that interview. Why did you want to do that interview? Well, who approached who? And if you could probably give us a little bit of a spoiler about what was discussed.
Certainly. So for those that don't know, Carl Cashman is the LibDem leader in Liverpool. He's councillor, and he's the LibDem leader in Liverpool. He's leader of the opposition on Liverpool City Council, hopes to become leader of the council if the LibDems take control of Liverpool next time, which would be fantastic, because people may not know, but the LibDems used to run Liverpool, just like we used to run lots of other big cities.
It's absolute coalition, wasn't it?
Indeed. And sadly, our involvement of the coalition with the coalition, which I think is fading in people's memories, thank goodness now. But I think that did destroy our reputation, I'm afraid, in lots of these big cities. But people like Carl and his wonderful team in Liverpool are really working to regain that now, and are really winning that battle. And ultimately, let's face it, lots of Labour people at the time were saying, "Oh, you yellow Tories and all of this." Well, I think we can now say the red Tories, right? I mean, look at what this Labour government is that they have no leg to stand on, right, in terms of criticising the LibDems.
Converted years. I'm not Chris.
Indeed.
Well,
so,
no, Chris would agree. Actually.
Chris would agree. I approached. So I know Carl a bit. I've met him before at previous party conferences, and he's a really colourful personality, a really vibrant personality, very good-looking gentleman as well. Let's just be absolutely honest. Very, very attractive guy, but also, I mean, much more important than his physical looks is the fact that he's a lovely guy, very, very humble. Just great. Works very hard as a councillor. Great LibDem leader in Liverpool. Fantastic. So I happen to think, I mean, you can argue about this, but I happen to think that he's just about the most interesting kind of person in the Lib Dems right now, in terms of he doesn't fit the mould of a Lib Dem person. He's not from the south, not middle class, has that great Liverpool accent that you don't often hear from Liberal Democrats, And so I kind of think, Andy, that he's a really interesting character, and I love the way he speaks. I love that he did, and I talked to him about this in the interview. I love that he does his little cheeky chappy things, like when he was when the lady from Reform, and it wasn't just that, because I know you have to be careful. It was a lady speaking. He didn't want to sound like he was being misogynist or whatever like that. But it was the fact that it was a Reform person. Never mind that it was a woman speaking. It was a Reform person talking twaddle, and so so on TV he just did this very quick kind of which I thought was really funny. And then another time that went viral was a clip from when he was in the council chamber and he was speaking at the Liverpool City Council, and Labour are absolutely barracking him, as they do, because at the moment the Lib Dems have got 15 seats and Labour have got 60 plus seats, so it's really, they can really get at him. And he just did this really funny thing where it just went viral, where he said, excuse me, like this. It's just really funny.
He's done that twice now. He did one on the child benefit.
Absolutely, so really good. And so he's just this he's got this cheeky chappy persona, and great. So I just think he was the most interesting person in the Lib Dems at the moment. So I DM'd him and said, hi Carl, I'd really like to, I think you're, without wanting to blow smoke up him, so to speak, I thought, look, I think you're really interesting. You're doing really interesting things. I'd really love to interview you for Liberator magazine. For folks that don't know, it's a Lib Dem focused magazine. It's not officially part of the party, so it can be very critical sometimes of the party, which is another reason why I like it. It's independent. It used to be produced as a physical magazine. Because of cost and everything, it's not anymore, but you can get it on, you can subscribe and you can download it. And so I read it on my iPad, which we're so used to doing these days. But it comes out quarterly, and it always has really fascinating articles in it. And I used to write for it years back, and then for whatever reason, life just got busy, and I stopped. But I've started writing for it again. And so I emailed the editor first of all, because obviously if he'd have said no, there'd been no point then in me contacting Carl. But he said as long as isn't Carl Cashman wonderful?
Soft questions.
Yeah, soft questions. He said, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and write that. So I said to Carl, well, what would be fab, Carl, is it if I could actually come up to Liverpool and interview you in the city, So he said, yeah, come up, Mathew. So I was absolutely delighted. So it was a few weeks back. I went up to see him on the Saturday, and I saw him and our mutual friend John Hyland, who lives up in Liverpool, and the Queen of Scotty Road. That was quite something. Yes,
which I am becoming aware of now.
He is quite the character, the Queen of Scotland. And in Liverpool, at least, he's very, very famous. So if you don't know the Queen of Scotty Road, look him up on Instagram. Absolutely hilarious. So it was great to meet him, and he was doing a little video for the Lib Dems as well, which is fantastic.
Oh, okay.
So I interviewed Carl, and actually it was one of those weird things that I took my phone along to just get the recording so that I could then listen to that and write my article. But actually, Carl then said, do you mind if we actually record it like a podcast. So it was filmed as well, and I know one clip has gone out from that.
It looks really
Whether they'll release the whole thing, I don't know. That's entirely up to Carl and his team.
We've seen a snippet of it, and it's really professional. I mean, I would love to be able to. I'll get there one day.
No, you're doing wonderfully. So that was it's a really interesting interview with Carl, and as I say, the whole video of it may be released at some point, but certainly in terms of I'm writing it up for my article for Liberator. I might actually get around to doing that tomorrow, Bank Holiday Monday, because the deadline is early September, so I actually need to do that. But I've got the interview here, the audio here for me to write up. But I'm really looking forward to doing that and seeing that published, because Carl is a really interesting guy, and I really hope that he becomes leader of Liverpool City Council next year. It's going to be an uphill slog because look, he's got 15 seats and Labour have currently got 60 odd. But if anyone can do it, it's Carl Cashman and his team. But I really hope, and I said this to him in the interview, I really hope that one day he stands for Parliament. I think we need more like him on the green benches.
You prompted my next question, so we'll move. You read my mind, Matthew.
So look out for that, and then look out either for Liberator or for LibDem Voice or for both. I'm going to have,
prompted again.
I'm going to have, I really can't say who at the moment, but I've got some really interesting people lined up that I'm also going to be visiting and interviewing. So
no spoilers?
No spoilers. No spoilers. It's going to be another one of our great city leaders, this time from London.
Bit of a clue, guys. In the LibDems?
All in the LibDems. And then it's going to be one of our MPs.
Ooh. Watch this space. And this is good.
Watch this space.
And this is on which part?
So it'll either be... so again, I need to speak to the editor of Liberator. So I can't just say that this will definitely be in Liberator, but it'll either be in Liberator and or it'll be on LibDem Voice.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which I write a column for. Coming back in September.
I was going to say Matthew's on Monday, so
do you like the alliteration of that, Matthew on Monday?
It was
good, isn't it?
Very good, Matthew. Very good. And just to close off, anything, any other new developments that's in the pipeline?
Any other new developments? So in September, the podcast returns. Political Frenemies, folks, do check it out on YouTube and on podcast platforms. My LibDem Voice column returns each Monday, Matthew on Monday, so really excited about that. That's always a great opportunity to, from a LibDem perspective, obviously, and it's mostly read by LibDem members, but anyone can go on LibDem Voice and read it. Where I comment on the news, and where yes, I am really quite critical of our party, but I'm only critical because I love our party and I want it to. Some people don't get this, Andy. Some people think, "Oh, Matthew, you're not very loyal." I'm like, well, number one, I pay my membership fee, right, as we both do, and that gives us a right to be able to say what we want. People, the leadership don't have to agree, but it gives us a right. And look, I want the party to be doing better. It's saying we should be doing better, in my view.
Yeah,
we should be communicating better. Why we're not doing this, that, or the other. And so, if I'm critical, which I am, that is the reason. That is the reason why. But I really enjoy writing for LibDem Voice. It's kind of really at the minute. I mean, quite often I'll write it later on a Monday and actually be able to talk about something in the news that day, which I love that. Look out for the longer form pieces in Liberator. Look out for Indale's book. Look out for me. You can tell I'm busy, right, Andy?
Yeah.
Look out for me on. Look out for me on Talk. Back in the studio with the wonderful Peter Cardwell. Disagree with him on almost everything, but he's a fab guy, so a bit like Chris Newton. And really fortunate that he invites me onto his show so regularly. So, and the guys at Talk are all fantastic. And if you're very liberal out there and say, oh, how can you get on Talk? Well, they are all great people, and I'm very blessed to be able to go on. So thanks to Peter. So I think I'm back in studio on Talk on September the 13th. LibDem Conference. I knew we hadn't mentioned something.
Yeah.
So LibDem Conference.
I'm
there on the Saturday and the Sunday. I'm not there for the whole thing, but I'm there on the Saturday and the Sunday. And on the Sunday, I'm so excited for this. I'm very privileged to be chairing a Fringe conference in Bournemouth this year. So if you're a LibDem member watching this, and I hope there's lots of you, do please come along to the Dignity in Dying Fringe. Obviously, it's such a big issue at the moment, Andy, with the assisted dying.
Absolutely.
The assisted dying bill.
You know my own personal to
Indeed, and I know that there's very strong views, and even within the LibDems, there'll be very strong views either way. But I'm very passionately in favour of assisted dying within the very tight structures of that, and quite right too. And it should only be, in my view, for people coming towards the very end of their life, but when the suffering is likely to be intolerable. And I think it is only right, this is the dignified human thing to do, to give those people that are still of sound mind the ability to say, actually, I want to end my life in a dignified way.
I don't think we could call ourselves liberals if we don't give people a choice.
I agree, but people have differing views, and no doubt we'll hear them at their fringe. But dignity in dying. So basically, what happened? It quite funny how these things work. So I was on Peter Cardwell's show on tour. Dignity in dying came up, the issue. Sorry, assisted dying came up, the issue, and I get my view. And I clipped it up a few days later for social media and just put it out, as I do. And Dignity in Dying retweeted and got in touch with me and said, this was very kind of them, and said, "Oh, Matthew, you explained that so well and so succinctly, and thanks so much. And do you mind if we, use it put it out again?" I said, "No." I said, "Do what you want." So anyway, then a while later, a DM pings up on my Twitter, and it's the CEO of Dignity in Dying saying, "Matthew, we're holding a fringe at LibDem conference. We'd love for you to chair." So I thought, oh, how fantastic! Really honoured. So really looking forward to that. There's going to be an MP on the panel. We're going to have the CEO of Dignity in Dying on the panel. There's going to be someone who I think it's a relative of theirs, is very, very personal to them, the issue. For them, it's not just some abstract thing. It's lived experience. And so it's going to be a really interesting hour at 11:30 in the Bournemouth International Centre on the Sunday of LibDem conference. So I've got that, really looking forward to that. And then the following Tuesday, so the final day of LibDem conference, but when I'm back from conference, I'm going to be, so what's that, the 23rd of September? I'm going to be down in London on LBC Cross Question with Iain Dale. So September is madness. I think I need to sleep a lot before then, because I won't be sleeping very much during September. But look, folks say to me, and can I just also say as well, for anyone that might know me personally out there and be a bit worried that, oh, Matthew, you're taking a lot on. Obviously I've had the diabetes struggle since March when I almost died. But that since then I've lost about 5 stone.
Looking good.
Thank you. I'm eating healthier. I'm walking loads more. We've been walking today, which is fab. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm making sure that I have downtime. So yeah, don't get me wrong. September is going to be full on, but I will be making sure, and I know I'll have people like Andy and family members and others checking that I'm having a rest, as well. But I like to be busy, Andy. Look, I just like to be busy.
You like me?
I like to be busy. I like to be busy. I like to be talking about the news of the day. I want to be involved in the debate. What I won't accept is people being vile and personal to me, because there's just no need for it. But I'm extraordinarily grateful for that. There may come a time, I hope it's years hence, but there may come a time when I don't have that. And okay, that'll be a new phase of my life then. But at the moment, I am in this purple patch. I feel very honoured and blessed. And yeah, I will use it to espouse the causes that I believe in and the principles that I have. And I'm true to myself. Me and Andy, and we won't mention any names here because we don't want to get in legal trouble, but me and Andy talk about grifters, people who espouse an opinion, who espouse an opinion, Andy, but don't necessarily really believe that opinion. Yeah. They're just doing it for money. They're doing it for clicks. Well, that's not me. I am a liberal to my very being. That is both my politics, my religion, my philosophy, my ideology. All of those things. And I say it as I see it. Blessed. Really blessed, hand on heart, to have you as mates. Love you, man, so much. This weekend has been so ace, really has, and I look forward to the next time. I'll come and see you next time, I think. But the opportunity to be so open in these interviews with you, and to, especially when I talked about my mum and everything, to be able to get so emotional because I felt safe in safe hands. I hope that people have seen that I'm not just this guy with these strident opinions. I am that, but I'm not just that. I'm a human being with a heart and a brain and with feelings. And so, yeah, thanks very much.
No problem, Matthews. And thank you for those kind words. Yeah. So if you see Matthew at conference, I'm sure...
Come and have a chat.
come have a chat, take a selfie. Yeah, just go for it. And also, I've not been, but if you are a LibDem member and it's your first time, do lean on the stewards because they are there to help you. So if you're not sure where Mathew is for the Fringe, then please just, because I'm sure Mathew doesn't know right now because of the...
It'll be in the directory.
Oh, there we go. Well, they're in the directory. There you go. Don't need the stewards.
But they're great teams.
Yeah. And also don't forget, which I'm going to put in the description, to also follow Mathew's YouTube, in which he does his video diary.
Oh, I'll do those as well.
Yeah. Don't worry.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
Mathew Hulbert.
This is more Mathew Hulbert than you can ever need. I'm sorry, folks, but, there we are.
You never have too much.
I never have too much. No.
Mathew Hulbert, thank you so much.
Thanks, mate.
Just
Cheers.
all round nice guy and good
Love
friend.
you.
And come on, here we go. Come on.
Cheers, mate. Take care of yourself. See you soon.
Thank you. Take
Cheers,
care,
guys.
bye.